What is up, everybody? So I had my bike all loaded up for a week-long adventure across Ohio. I hopped on it to ride over to where we were getting picked up to be dropped off to start our adventure. I thought, I'll ride over there because I'm going to be riding just back home from this trip directly to my house, so there's no reason to drive a car to the pickup point because then I'd have to go get it later, blah, blah, blah. Also, I figured it would give me one last chance to check on the bike setup, how it felt, make sure everything was secure, and all that kind of thing. Our buddy Yonda was loading up 5 bikes worth of bike packing gear, and 5 people into his truck, not including himself. Actually, it worked out way better than I expected. Of course, I didn't have to sit in the back like Brad did. I was in the front seat. But yeah, it wasn't nearly as cramped or crowded as I thought it would be. We were heading to an Airbnb in Portsmouth, Ohio. The drive down was kind of cool because once you get past Columbus, we're entering the Scioto River Valley, and we were actually driving on a different side of the river than we'd be riding the next day, so kind of got to see both things. Our Airbnb was in this cool old industrial commercial building that they had built out, as you could see, with like interesting, decor style. Portsmouth is famous for these flood walls they built after a huge 1937 flood. They were really, kind of a ugly monstrosity, but then for 20 years they got painted with new murals, and they're still adding some panels now. So there's 2,000 feet of these cool paintings that show Portsmouth's history. Speaking of which, one of the big reasons I wanted to go to Portsmouth and start here, it's where the Ohio Erie Canal ended. As you probably know, I'm from a canal town on the Ohio Erie Canal, or what was the Ohio Erie Canal. So seeing the other end of it was very interesting, as I've always ridden the towpath here that mirrors where the canal was, and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and all that. On the night when we hopped on our bikes to go for a ride, I was leading us over to Mound Park, which you're seeing here in the background. This was built by the Hopewell culture between 100 and 500 AD. The interesting thing is this is just a little section kind of on the edge of downtown, but these earthworks were a 20-mile long complex. Most of it is now underneath the city of Portsmouth, and a lot of it has been farmed over, just like many ancient mounds in Ohio. But it's just a little piece of history I wanted to see. Not very photographic, actually kind of a rundown park, fences fallen over, a busted up playground. You'll see some of those photos at the end. That's all I had on the agenda, and after that we just kind of followed our wahoos and cruised around the city. It had all these cool alleys, like almost every street had an alley behind it, so we were just kind of riding around, hitting as many as we could. Portsmouth was a huge paving brick manufacturer too, and so almost all the roads are still brick. Some are paved over in different spots or graveled over, but you see the bricks almost everywhere. Portsmouth is pretty typical of, the Rust Belt, where it's gone through a boom period where it was huge in manufacturing. They made a lot of shoes there. I think they still make the most shoelaces in the world here, but steel, all that kind of stuff, the railroads, the canals, it sits on the Scioto and Ohio River. So had a boom period, and then the whole outsourcing and suburbanization and freeway construction kind of led to its decline. And then through the 2000s and more recently, a lot of economic development is trying to pick the city back up. And its downtown was pretty nice with a number of restaurants and stuff like that. Of course, we had to find a little of the industrial gravel on the fringes and do some kind of urban exploring, as we always do. There are a lot of cool historic buildings in Portsmouth. Also, the freeways didn't go right through the center of the city like they did in a lot of our towns up here. So there's a lot of cool stuff to see, but reading about it is also a bummer because they did tear down many historic buildings as well. This mural is showing the Torsiv, or TOSRV scene, which is actually the genesis of adventure cycling and all that, an event that had been going on since the 60s, I believe, and it was a ride from Columbus to Portsmouth and back. And I think only the last few years they had modified it, and it's not quite the same trip anymore. But I guess it's very important in the history of bike touring and that kind of cycling culture. Something I want to read up on a little more. I have a t-shirt from the thrift store from years ago, and that's when I first found out about it. And it was kind of a little bit of a motivation to do this part of the route as well. We checked out the brewery in town and then decided to head over and get dinner at a different spot real close to our Airbnb. Actually, we were able to put the bikes back in the Airbnb and just walk over to dinner. We were staying in the historic Bonyfield or Bonyfield, not sure how it's pronounced, part of town, and real close to downtown. Downtown kind of shifted a little over the years. All of Portsmouth actually did. The original settlement was right on the Scioto River, but it flooded all the time, so they moved it. In the morning, me, Aaron, and Ben got up earlier, and so we headed off to find some coffee and maybe a snack. We went to this cafe that, I don't know, was not ready for showtime. I don't know, it seems like it recently changed owners because the menu was different than everything online. So it was pretty average, wouldn't recommend. So we ended up heading back to the Airbnb, meeting up with Brad and Ames, and heading over to a different spot, more in the kind of more modern commercial district of Portsmouth. I almost said Akron. And this is the first spot, but then had a much better breakfast, another cup of coffee, and then we were off to hit the road. So 6 days of riding, 5 nights of camping, all the way across Ohio. It was quite the adventure. I had planned to make this all one video, but I shot over 700 pieces of content, so I need to spend some time with it. So hopefully sometime next week, I will get all that out there. Thanks as always for watching. This was a great start to the trip, and I feel like the trip only got better as we rode over 400 miles of Ohio's history. Gonna let this video run out with some photos I took with my Canon R8 of Portsmouth, Ohio, and I will see you in the next upload. Give this video a like and check out our little store down below. Peace.